I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
Oh, yeah. You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 141. If you don't already know, I'm Cap Tardello, coming to you on Sunday, November 5th. And the Bobcats are bowl eligible. Oh, I'll be the first to admit this is a soda. I had to pop the top. It's a victory pod. I looked around, didn't have any beer. Didn't want to go all the way to the store for a bit. And it's kind of early, you know. I'll be honest, I took a sip of that soda, and I'm like, I don't know. It's pretty early. I'm going to switch to coffee. There you go. I got my Win Now or Get Bent mug right here. Oh, yeah, that's better. Get all that sugar out of my mouth. But hey, you know, I had to pop that top. Bobcats are bowl eligible. How about it? They did it against Georgia Southern. They took on a pretty tough team, and they handled it for 4 quarters. Jumped in the river afterwards. What a celebration. What a time for the Bobcats. I can't wait to talk about it. Let's get through these ad reads real quick. This episode is sponsored by TGC, the GalindoCollective.com. Hey, they're sponsoring our bowl trip. Shout out to the Galindo.com, GalindoCollective.com. Let's get the name right. A team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com and follow their social media platforms on Twitter at TGC_LLC and on Instagram and Facebook at the Galindo Collective. Shout out to Rick Galindo, a true Tech State sicko, a Tech State grad himself, sponsored us before the season, sponsored us all through the season. Now he's got us in the postseason. Shout out again to Rick Galindo. That is the GalindoCollective.com. We're also brought to you by Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, the most experienced F-Wave roofing contractor in Central Texas. F-Wave is a highly impact-resistant lifetime shingle with stunning designer curb appeal. It is the only roofing product on the market with an exclusive hail warranty. You need that hail warranty. That bad weather comes, you want to be protected. So hit up my guy, Carl Larson. He's a new sicko, jumped on this season. What a time to jump on. He's a converted Gamecock over here with the maroon and gold now. So hit up my guy over at Balcones Roofing and Remodeling for any of your needs. BalconesRoofsAustin.com. That's BALCONES. BalconesRoofsAustin.com. You can call them at 512-937-8805. It's 512-937-8805. And follow them on Twitter at Balcones Roofing. We are also partnered with our guy, Thaddeus Watkins, San Marcos Edward Jones financial advisor. You know who Thad is. Does your financial advisor take the time to really listen to you? Is your financial strategy personalized to you and your family? Will your financial advisor be there as your life and financial situation change? When you work with Thaddeus Watkins, your San Marcos Edward Jones financial advisor, he focuses on what's important to you. You'll work together and use an established process to create a personalized financial strategy backed by the advice, tools, and resources to help you reach your goals. Contact Thaddeus Watkins at 737-373-8200. That's 737-373-8200 and at edwardjones.com/Thaddeus-Watkins. And follow my guy on Twitter at Big Thad, BIGGTHADD_. Who better to protect your finances than a former Texas State offensive lineman, Thaddeus Watkins? Saw him at the game, see him at every game. He's always on the sideline rooting on the Cats. So shout out to my guy, Thad Watkins. Make sure y'all hit him up. And we are also sponsored by Austin Patchmaster. Austin.patchmaster.com. One of our earliest sponsors back in the spring. Jumped back in mid-season. Really glad to have him with us, especially for a bowl-eligible podcast. No one else deserves it than my guy Michael Clements over there at Austin Patchmaster. Is your ceiling or wall cracked? Need that popcorn ceiling removed? Did you punch a hole in your wall celebrating the Bobcats bowl eligibility? It's kind of a weird way to celebrate, but no judgment here because my guy Michael Clements will come and fix those holes for you. He's a true Tech State sicko, a Texas State grad. They're servicing the greater Austin area, including San Marcos, but if you live in Houston and Dallas, hit them up and they'll give you a referral because Patchmaster is a franchise, so they can hook you up there. But if you're in this area, hit them up at austin.patchmaster.com. Call them at 512-200-3888. It's 512-200-3888. And a quick plug to my guys at Chilsea. My buddy over there, Dennis, hooking me up with these koozies. Handed out a lot of these koozies at the last game. Handed out the rest at this one. I've only got a few more. If you didn't get one and you want one, please feel free to DM me. I ran into Rianne. She listens to the pod a lot, and I didn't have one to offer. I felt bad. But next time I see you, Rianne, I'll have one just for you. But my guys over there at chilsey.com, CHILLZEY, they make custom koozies. They make custom tumblers like this one I'm holding up here. If you order 6 or more of these and you punch in the code Bobcats at your checkout, they are only $15 a piece. So if you have a work event, a family reunion, anything where you have a big gathering of people and you want to have a nice gift, a custom gift to hand out to everybody, hit up Chilsey. They'll get you going. Chilsey.com, CHILLZEY. Thanks to Dennis over there. I've had a blast handing out those koozies to all these sickos. He's a sicko himself, a true Bobcat. He's been supporting the pod a long time. He sent me one of these koozies way back in, I think, February, just as a hey, thanks for doing what you do. He sent me some koozies. So wanted to work with him for a while, and now we got a little partnership. And you know all about the merch site for ours. I wrote a note here to talk about it. WNOGB.com. I'm drinking some coffee out of this mug today. It's an ambidextrous. Ooh, I shouldn't have tried that word on the pod. It's where you can use both hands, right and left. You can switch back and forth. It's got a logo on each side if you're seeing on the YouTube channel. Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube. Drinking coffee out of that mug. It's pretty nice. Got the sweater on too. Sicko sweater here. Bang. Feeling good wearing all my gear today on a bowl-eligible Sunday. It's enough ad reads. Let's talk about the Bobcats. Bowl-eligible. Win number 6. Happened against Georgia Southern. 45-24. In front of 18,000 strong, which is the smallest crowd at Bobcat Stadium this season. But that's saying a lot for 18,000 plus being the smallest crowd. That shows a ton of change just right there. That's the floor for the attendance at Bobcat Stadium this season. Because when we talk about Bobcats are bowl eligible, and some people who aren't familiar with the program have been putting out the first time ever the Bobcats are bowl eligible. It's not. The last time they were bowl eligible was 2014. As all of you know who are listening, you're sickos. You all probably remember that. 2014, 7-5 season. And what happened that year? And so I'm sure some of you see the 6 win, you're like, well, it's not a guarantee. 2014. What happened in 2014? There were way less bowls back then. I mean, this is 9 years ago. There weren't as many bowls, and there were more teams that were bowl eligible than bowl games available. And I think there was a handful of teams, maybe like 3 teams that were bowl eligible, didn't get a bowl. Tech State was one of them. Attendance factored into that. The attendance is much better this year. So if that is a factor, which I don't think it will be, it's a different world where there are just more bowl games. But if attendance is a factor, when these teams are, or when these committees are looking at assigning these bowl games, if it is, then the Bobcats have done really well. They've done well for themselves. And they've proven that they can bring a crowd to these games. Even a bowl game. I mean, I know a lot of you are going to show up. I'll definitely be there, no doubt about it. But that's why it's they're bowl eligible, and it's not guaranteed they get a bowl, but it's a different deal in 2023 than it was in 2014. So we can be excited. We can start to make bowl plans because it's going to happen for the Bobcats. But yeah, 45-24 over Georgia Southern. I'll admit I have not written very many prep notes because I'm just kind of going off the cuff with it, and I have stats pulled up that I'm gonna read through as we talk about it, because it's a lot of how I feel about this game. I mean, obviously the stuff that happened in the game, we got the box score, we can talk about all that, but a lot of the stuff that's surrounding it is from the heart But let's talk about that game. Let's talk about these Cats and how they looked. We'll break down the scoring first. 45-24, as I said, jumped out to a 7-0 lead, scoring on that opening drive. I need to go through and see how many opening drives the Bobcats have scored on. Not necessarily even their opening drives, but the opening drive of the game. So we saw early on when Kinney he wanted to get the ball first. So when they'd win the toss, he'd take the ball first, and then he switched. He started deferring to the second half. But even when they would take the ball first, they've scored. This time they lost the toss, and Georgia Southern decided to give the ball to Texas State, and then they scored. I got to go through and see how often they have scored on that opening drive. There's at least 2 I can think of. But yeah, Joey Hobart, 23-yard pass from TJ Finley, the opening drive of the game. Quick start, just like they talked about they wanted. Georgia Southern came back, hit a field goal. It was after a big kick return. You remember that early in the game? That guy got like 80 yards, and it set him up for a field goal. But the defense, they had a strong game the whole game, and they were really strong on that drive. Basically a 3-and-out. They got a field goal out of it because of the field position, but good defense there. I believe this was after the botch snap by Finley. I say by Finley. It was more of a bad snap than anything that Finley did on the fumble that gave the ball back to Georgia Southern. They were able to score on that Jalen White 39-yard touchdown. In fact, I want to see if they scored off that turnover. I don't want to spend too much time looking for it. Yeah, I'll look for it later. Just because I just wanted to see if that was another time where a team was able to score directly off a turnover on the Bobcats. So down 10-7, 3:36 left in the first quarter. It's the only time the Bobcats trailed, 10-7, and it was just for a little bit because 10:45 left in the second quarter. Connor Fox gets a touchdown for the Bobcats, a 3-yard pass, ends a 15-play drive. That was a nice long drive, and it took 7 minutes and 51 seconds off the clock. I was watching that drive, and I was like, this is great. This is what you do. It's what we talked about, because, I should add this caveat. I predicted them to lose this game. I predicted Texas State would lose this game. I got to call myself out because as somebody who watches this team, covers this team, has covered it since G.J. Kinney got here. I've covered before that, but the whole time of this regime specifically, and they still surprised me. They did things that I didn't think they could do. I was even saying it going into the game. They're going to have to do a lot that they haven't done a lot of. They're going to need some turnovers. Got that great interception from Brian Holloway. They're going to need to really get after the quarterback, Davis Brin. They did that. They're going to need to be really clean on offense. There was the one fumbled on the snap, but for the rest of the time, very clean on a defense that we talked about it in the preview pod. They intercept the ball a lot. They're second in the Sun Belt in interceptions. No interceptions. Clean game from TJ Finley. Great stuff. And part of it's a roundabout way to get back to this Connor Fox touchdown. I promise you, we're getting there. But part of it was taking away the shootout from Georgia Southern with long drives, with running the ball and running the clock and keeping it out of Davis Brin's hands. And a 15-play drive that takes 7 minutes and 51 seconds off the clock is a great way to do that. Ending on the Connor Fox touchdown, his first career touchdown in college. First touchdown by a tight end for Texas State since October 17th, 2020. It was Jackson Lanham way back then. Over 3 years, no touchdowns to a tight end. Didn't realize that until Connor Fox scored, and I was like, when was the last time a tight end scored? It was 2020 for the Bobcats. So I feel like this podcast started in February 2021. The entire time I've been beating the table about going to tight ends because they can be a sneaky weapon. And that was a good sneaky play. They tried some other stuff with Connor Fox, and it looked like he may have gotten banged up again. I'm not sure. I don't want to. I guess I already have put it out there, but it did look like he got a little banged up. We'll find out this week. Connor Fox touchdown, though, puts him up 14-10. That was the first of 4 scores in the second quarter. And they followed up with the Cole Wilson touchdown, 8-yard pass from Finley. That was a 6-play, 60-yard drive. And then the Shipley field goal with 2 minutes left, 31 seconds. And then they got another touchdown with 42 seconds left. After they got that field goal with 2 minutes left, in my head, it was like, okay, all right, you're up 24-10. It's a good time to just get a stop going to halftime. It's a good lead, 14 points. Not what the Bobcats were thinking. They got a stop on defense. TJ Finley went back on the field, 5 plays, 60 yards. He ran in a 16-yard touchdown. All of a sudden, it's 31-10 at halftime. 31-10. I couldn't believe it when it happened. 31-10. And then we've seen the inconsistent halves from the Bobcats. We've seen, 31-10 in the first half. What are we expecting? I know what I was expecting. Seen the inconsistencies. Here it comes. Here it comes in the second half. Didn't happen this time. This was a full 4 quarters from the Bobcats. Hadn't really seen that since Baylor. We've seen glimpses. We've seen potential of them getting there. Louisiana, they almost got there. But this was the game where they finished it out. They came out of halftime with their hair on fire, and they did the thing. TJ Finley, though, gets another 12-yard touchdown in 9:52 left in the third quarter. It's a 6-play, 61-yard drive. He capped it with a 12-yard touchdown run. That was 5 touchdowns for TJ Finley. 5. 3 passing, 2 rushing. Needed that game. After those last 2 games, there was a time where I was his biggest supporter. I was like, this guy, he's going to the league. We'll see him on Sundays next year. And then the last 2 games, even I was like, oh man, we've seen the flaws. Some overthrow, some touch. He's not on that back foot. Man, he delivered. He answered the call today, and he showed what he's about. This is 9 games in. This isn't a fluke from any of these guys on this team. That's why even looking at this offense, it's still the number 1 offense in the Sun Belt 9 games into the year. Scoring, total offense, and now rushing offense. It's number 1. They moved past Louisiana. Louisiana lost to Arkansas State. They didn't get as many rushing yards. They moved down. There's only 1 team averaging 200 yards rushing in the Sun Belt, and that's Texas State. And they have the number 2 passing team. Incredible. And one of the top teams in the country in tackles for loss. I think they're 3rd in the Sun Belt as well in sacks. Just terrific stuff. This is a lot of fun. Great stuff, huh? 6-3. Sounds good. Remember we were talking about a good 5-2 sound? 6-3 sounds pretty dang good as well. 2:34 left in the third quarter. Denario Davenport pretty much put the nail in the coffin here with a 1-yard touchdown run. Great stuff from Davenport. That was another thing I talked about leading into the game. Mahdi, another 100-yard game for Mahdi, looking like he's going to be the first 1,000-yard back for Texas State since Rob Lowe in 2014. He's had a terrific season, but a second back needed to emerge. And I was saying maybe it should be Calvin Hill. We've seen this guy. He's led the Bobcats in rushing in years past. It ended up being Denario Davenport. Let's go ahead. Let's pull up his stats real fast. Mr. Davenport, he rushed for, that's receiving. He had 11 rushes for 75 yards and a touchdown. I know he had some catches too. 2 catches for 26 yards. His ability to catch the ball really impresses me out of the backfield. I mean, Mahdi's pretty good at it as well. But for seeing what I've seen from him at the Baylor game, remember that great touchdown he had? Davenport really, really emerging in that game yesterday. We'll see if that can continue the last 3 regular season games and into the postseason, because there's going to be that. That is exciting. But then right before the fourth quarter, Georgia Southern, they start to somewhat creep back into it. Start making things a little interesting. A 32-yard pass made it 45-17, and then another Jalen White touchdown made it 45-24. 8 minutes and 40 seconds left at that point. Bobcats hold it out, get the win, 6 win, ball eligibility. Everybody goes to the river and jumps in. Even me, I jumped in. I'm susceptible to peer pressure. When I hear my name being chanted, I gotta jump in that river. What a time. What a time. Let's go through some stats, though. TJ Finley, 25 for 31, 301 yards, 3 touchdowns, sacked 3 times, had that one fumble we talked about, but nothing to really bang on him about. Oh, wow. No, you know what? I'm looking at Ishmael Mahdi right now. His net ended at 99 yards. So that's not a 100-yard game for him. Interesting. I put out a tweet saying that was his 4th 100-yard game this season. The last time somebody did that, Rob Lowe, 2014. Not a 100-yard game. He gained 104 yards, but he lost 5, so his net's 99. Not 100 yards. Interesting looking at that. Shout out to Mahdi. He's still got, He's coming up on 1,000. I think he's about 60 or so yards away from 1,000. So he's gonna be right there. Mentioned Davenport rushing 75 yards. Finley netting 18 yards after getting sacked 3 times. I mean, that just showed he was able to get some wiggle. Yeah, he gained 49 yards, but netted 18. That you lose those yards on the sacks. Joey Hobart, 13 catches for 141 yards and a touchdown. That ties a Texas State record, an all-time Texas State record for 13 receptions in a game. It actually tied Ashton Hawkins from last year. But still, 13 catches in a game. He has 804 yards receiving, which is the most by a Texas State receiver in the FBS era for Texas State. Ashton Hawkins, 2 catches for 54, 3 for 48 for Cole Wilson. Bo Corrales got 1 for 17. I saw they were really going after him in the red zone. He got 3 targets in the red zone, 1 caught for 17 yards, but he didn't play a ton. I talked a lot about him leading into the game. Man, with that height and his vertical, I understand why he's a red zone threat, and it was almost there. I'd like to see him go back to that because that's an interesting weapon. The defense, as I said, they really stepped up. Ben Bell, 2 sacks. Josh Eaton had a TFL. Josh Eaton playing some safety. You know, I tweeted that it was safety, but it was more like some nickel star, that position that they have out there. A little bit of a position switch. They had Chris Mills manning Eaton's corner position, and I liked it. I thought it looked good. Brian Holloway with the pick. A lot of pressure all day from the Bobcats defensive line, and that pressure created that interception. Brian Holloway with the jump and catch on the pick. Man, he's been all over the place, all over the stat boards all season. Great stuff by him. This defensive line, though, Dominique Ratcliffe, so impressed with him. I came out of that game. I feel like I leave these games impressed with Dominique more and more each game, just seeing what he can do at that defensive tackle spot. Because I've said it before, he was a defensive end, transferred over from Louisiana last year, was a defensive end last year. This year they moved him to the inside at that defensive tackle spot. And he still shows that quickness of a guy who's a defensive end on the edge of the offense, but he does it on the inside, on the edge of the defense, I should say, and he does it on the inside of the defensive line. And it's great. He's really fast on stunts and everything. Doesn't always get the stat, but he's there. He's always in a lot of places. Chance Main with another sack. Tavian Coleman was getting in there with some TFLs. Terry Webb's a big bad player. I love this defensive line. They are a lot of fun to watch. Saw Caleb Coleman getting out there a lot too. That was good. I know he was seems like he got injured and hadn't been playing a ton. He's safety, and they definitely need some safety because we saw Bobby Crosby, who's a backup safety. He went down with an injury. That was probably the one big injury that we saw from the Bobcats was Bobby Crosby, number 27 out there. Yards gained as a team. Where was that one at? 487, almost 500 again for the Bobcats. 487 on 78 plays. I know I was really happy with what they did on third down, so let's look at that. 9 of 16 on third down. That's good. 1 for 1 on fourth down. That's good. This is the one I really like. 6 for 7 on red zone chances. And only 1 field goal. So it's five TDs. Gotta appreciate that. We've been harping on the red zone offense. That's always nice to see. Time of possession they honed them on. They just really, I mean, when I say it was 4 full quarters, you look through the box score and it's very telling. I want to see penalties. There were some bad roughing the passer penalties, but I'm going to say this of penalties on defense. 9 penalties for 77 yards. That was probably one knock. There was some roughing the passer, some defensive pass interference, but this is an aggressive defense, as we've talked about. These things are going to happen. I can forgive a roughing the passer sometimes. That 15 yards, it's not great, but when you're spending all day going after the quarterback, sometimes it's going to slip through a little bit late. And I will say there was one. I can't remember if I feel like there was 2 roughing the passers. I can think of one specifically where Bryn is throwing the ball as he's getting hit. And what's the defender supposed to do? The defender's already on him, and then he throws the ball, and they call that a roughing the passer late hit. Didn't like that. So I'm not going to harp too much on those penalties. Didn't see a lot of Seamus O'Kelly. That's nice. I'm sure even he likes that, you know. I mean, I know he wants to get some film out there, but I'm sure it's always he'd rather not play and come out with a win. But that was the game. That was great. The game ended, and fans rushed the field. It wasn't the biggest crowd, as I said, but there was enough on the field where you could feel it. I put a lot of videos on Twitter of the fans rushing the field. Apparently on the student section, they were cleared to go. Everything was good to go. Don't run into Georgia Southern players. Don't mess with them, all that stuff. On the other side, the home side, the alumni side, I guess security was being a little stickier, and they weren't letting people go until the other side was already gone. But everybody got out there, and it was a good time. They celebrated on the field with the Bobcats. An unprecedented moment after the game. We all gathered our stuff. I had my laptop in a backpack, the Wizard Zachary Webb. He had his camera and all that good stuff. And we walked from the stadium to Sewell to go do a river jump / press conference. At first, I was like, man, we're walking all the way over there. That's probably a long ways. Actually, it wasn't that bad a walk. It was probably 10 minutes. You know, it was nice, especially after a win like that. And you were walking with all the other media guys talking about it and how good it looked. It was a nice walk. I ran into Tom Madden while walking there. He was wearing a Win Now or Get Bent hat. Shout out to Tom Madden, WNOGB.com. Be like Tom. Go get that hat. Go get you a mug. I'm only saying the mug because I want to sip of my coffee real quick. See, that's a victory coffee right there. We're walking out there. And it's a big crowd walking all the way down there too. People driving by us honking, saying "Eat 'em up, cats!" And it was a great scene walking down Ocarina. We get there, they have lights set up, they have EMS there, they have lifeguards. They were prepared for this situation. They were ready for the jump. Dr. Danfus, Kelly Danfus, gives a nice speech. Then he jumps in. The team starts jumping in. Once all the team was in, I started hearing my name being chanted. Had to kick the shoes off and do a cannonball. I gotta admit, you know, the foresight beforehand of there's a press conference directly after this, and I gotta stand at that press conference in soaking wet jeans and a soaking wet sweater, looking like a drowned rat with my long hair all wet. But you know, hey, we got through it. We did it. It was quite the scene, quite the moment. It's been a long time coming for this program. It's been the entirety of my coverage, it's felt like, has been surrounded by when are the Bobcats going to go to a bowl game? Because I started in 2008 covering the Cats for the school paper, and at that time it was all about moving to FBS, the drive to FBS. And then once they get there, 2011, 2012, then it was like, okay, let's start thinking about a bowl game. Let's start getting this program right. And when they got so close, they finished 6-6 in 2013, 7-5 in 2014, and I think it was taken for granted, at least it was by me at that time, of like, okay, well, you know, next year or the year after, maybe even the year after that. And it was much longer than that. It was a lot longer for this program. It was several head coaches, different leadership. It's been quite a journey, a long 10 years. I don't want to say it was worth the wait for Texas State fans. You know, it's more like a finally, this is here feeling than worth the wait. But I will say, when in the midst of the celebration last night, the river jump, watching the school president of Texas State jump into the river after the Bobcats are bowl eligible. 2023 just it doesn't feel real sometimes. You know, when I look around at this place and how much it's changed, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. And in the midst of that celebration, it was like it almost felt worth it waiting just for all of that, just for the huge sigh of relief, I should say, from everybody surrounding this program to finally reach that threshold, reach that benchmark, and to get there, to have a postseason. This place hasn't had a postseason since 2008 when it lost in the first round of the FCS playoffs. And it was completely galvanized by the leadership here. I mean, as soon as Don Coryell moved to AD, and then Kelly Damphus moved to school president, and then G.J. Kinney came in, and it's why when we start the pod with it, when the right guy gets here, you better watch out. There's three right guys. There's three right guys here that are fully committed to turning this thing into a perennial program, at least at the G5 level. At least maybe even just in this area, but to changing it to at least it's not a joke. It's not a punchline. And it's been a punchline for a long, long time. Some people still like to crack the jokes, but the jokes don't hit as hard anymore because it's not as true with the Bobcats. And there's still a long way to go for Texas State. This was a threshold that needed to cross in order to move forward. And it's still a long way to go, still a lot of things to do, because you got other people from the Sun Belt. Shout out to Ben Whitehead. He's a good guy over there at Troy, and Luke Matheson at Arkansas State. And there's a few other guys where they're just like, hey, so proud of the Bobcats. It's about time. Good job. It's nice. It's a nice thing to say. They're being very polite. This is not me criticizing any of that, but it's more so about the perception of Texas State, where it was just like, oh, you guys did it. The little brother effect. You guys, you went out there and you did it. They look at Texas State as the little engine that could, and it needs to be the freight train barreling down the tracks. And it takes people like G.J. Kinney, Kelly Damphus, Don Coryell to fill that engine with coal. Get that freight train going. Texas State's a freight train. You better watch out. Man, great time. Great time for the Bobcats. Still a lot of work to do. Coastal Carolina coming up this week. They're on a 4-game winning streak. Grayson McCall, got to know who that is. That's a really good quarterback they have. So there's still some things to do, and you want to leave no doubt. Like we said, 2014, that was a time the Bobcats didn't get the bowl. They're getting enough wins, getting 7 wins, not even just the 6. They got to 7. So you want to leave no doubt. You don't want to finish the year 6-6. You don't want to finish it with a 3-game losing streak. So I think that they, after seeing what I saw against Georgia Southern, and I didn't expect that. Obviously, in the pod leading up to it, I had them losing. They didn't lose. They won that game. They shut me up. Not really. I'm still here talking, but can't shut me up, win or lose. But it's after showing what they've shown me against a true Sun Belt opponent, an opponent that this program hadn't beaten in the Sun Belt, 0-5 in the Sun Belt years against Georgia Southern, hadn't beaten them since 2005. We talked all about that on the last one. They proved something to me, and I like to think they proved something to themselves, where this wasn't, okay, you beat a team you should beat. Outside of the Baylor one, where you look more at Baylor, and it's less impressive of a win as the season goes. But you ever since then, any of the 4 other wins were games they were supposed to win. This was one they weren't supposed to win, and they did. And they took a team that on paper looked more talented than them, and they handed it to them. It was at least comparable talent, and I was saying that in the last pod. When they go up against teams that have comparable talent, they've floundered. Didn't flounder this game. Didn't shy away from that. And that was fantastic. Even looking at like some of the standings, so even just talking about Coastal Carolina and everything, maybe we want to take a look at these Sun Belt standings. Because Bobcats still tied for second with Arkansas State. Look at Arkansas State. Nice win over Louisiana for the Red Wolves. They're tied. It's a 2-way tie for second now. It was a 4-way tie before the weekend. Now it's a 2-way tie. Troy's still at the top of the West Division. East Division, man, that knocked the Georgia Southern was looking like they were going to be the representative of the East in the championship game, even though James Madison is the top team in the East. Georgia Southern was right below them, and James Madison isn't eligible to compete in those. But now they're third, and Coastal Carolina is right there at that spot in the East. So they're in control of the top top spot in the East right now. So big game. Another big game coming up this weekend for the Bobcats. On the road, though. On the road the next 2 games. No home game till they end the season with South Alabama. And just more thoughts on being bowl eligible and just and what it means for this program. It's because I can imagine it seems like a small thing if you're looking on the outside in for Texas State, and you're like, a 6th win, is that really worth all this hoopla? Is this really worth walking all the way to the river and jumping in and all of this stuff? It's hard to truly express how down this program was. I mean, I can remember in 2018, it was the last year of Withers. I'm reporting all that stuff, all that bad stuff. I hate bringing that up. People ask about it a lot, and I hate bringing up all of that. I wasn't enjoying any of that, any of the reporting of that. I don't like disparaging this place. This is a place I want to uplift and I want to grow with. I don't want to bring down. And that was a time where it was already down, and it was more reporting on why it was down. I didn't think it was me bringing it down. But I can remember at that time being like, man, this program is just, I don't know if it's cursed. I don't know if it's just never going to get there. Maybe it made a mistake moving up to FBS. There was a lot of thoughts 5 years ago, 2018. 5 years later, I'm looking around like, oh, any of these P5 schools need another team? Look at these Bobcats, real deal Bobcats down here in San Marcos now. And I can remember when a lot of that was happening, there were some people that were they would even say, you're coming at the AD too hard. Larry Tice at the time, you need to back off and let him just work the process and get this thing turned around. And it was, and part of me would hear that and I would feel bad, but it was also like, there needs to be change. There needs to be change. All of you, I mean, shoot, what was that? It had to be 2018 where the banner flew, the firetice.com banner. I mean, I knew then, like, this is what these people want. They want change. They're demanding it. They're demanding victory. Win now or get bent. It's the name of the pod. It was something that you pushed for, and it's why I love college sports more than pro sports, because you can't fire owners, but the people can come together and get the administration to change leadership when needed, and it was needed. Obviously, it was needed. I mean, very quickly into everyone's tenure, the 3 guys I just named. Don was here before everybody else. But then as soon as Kelly Damphus comes here, GJ Kinney gets in here, bam, things turn around. And it's a trickle down effect from the top to the bottom. When leadership when everybody is looking to the example of how things are going to be done, and they're doing it right, they are under promising and over delivering at this point, which is pretty rare in college athletics, where they're doing more than we anticipated. Obviously, there's more to do, but it's a process, and they're getting there now. It truly is. It's quite the change, and it's really, like I was saying, it's very telling of college athletics that this type of change can happen, and can happen rather quickly as well. It's crazy, even just last week, how down people were after the Troy loss. Someone who will remain nameless, I won't out him on the pod, but they were like, I don't think the Bobcats are going to win another game the rest of the year after the Troy one. And I think that's goes to show you the mindset of what those down years did to the fans and did to everybody, where it's, even with the success you've seen, one loss happens and it's like, okay, here it comes. Now the losses are going to start piling on. Here comes the avalanche. And, and it's totally fair to expect that because of what they've given you, the frame of reference they've had before this season. But it's a new time. It's a new Bobcats. It's a new Texas State program. I can't wait to cover a bowl game. Shout out to my dad, the commander, 28 years in the Navy, retired as commander in the Navy. He listened to the pod, the preview pod, and he texted me. I probably should have had my phone on me and looked this one up. He sent me a text. We've turned him into it's a big get for Bobcat Nation, is getting my dad to root for the Cats. I want to get this verbatim from him. Let's see. He said, I think you're wrong. Bobcats are going to win today. Shout out to my dad. He called it. Told me I was wrong. I was wrong. You're right, sir. Good job. Keep tuning in to these Bobcats. There's a lot more to go. We've got at least 4 more games left, huh? Because, even looking at the standings, I don't need to be looking at this too much. If Troy, I don't see Troy slowing down. If they slow down a little bit, still a path. There's still a path. It's not a clear path, and it's not a path the Bobcats control at all. They need Troy to lose for sure. But it's could be more. Could be more. We'll see. But that'll do it. That's enough. Good 40-minute pod talking about this. We're going to talk about it more. We're going to have more content. Make sure to stay looking out for that recap video. We're going to have a lot of content coming out. Check out our YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent, on YouTube. Right now we have Dr. Kelly Danfus. Shout out to Dr. Kelly Danfus for holding the camera. If you saw the selfie stick when he jumped into the river, that was a Win Now or Get Bent camera. The wizard, Zachary Webb, he hooked him up with that. Really, thank you, Zach, for doing that. That was a great moment. So you can check that out. We have that short on our YouTube channel. I also gave a little stand-up after the game when the stadium was empty, talked about some of my thoughts before we released a pod. We're also going to have a special river jump video because the wizard was there filming all of that. I'm sure he got me doing my cannonball in there. I tried to go for the right form. I wanted a bigger splash. I think I'm a bigger guy in my head. That splash, it should have been a tidal wave when I did it, but that's okay. You'll get to see it. You can judge it. You can judge my cannonball and see all the festivities and everything. But give my guy some time. He's doing a game recap and he's doing the river jump recap. So let's give him some time. It may not be out as quickly as the recap. It's a lot of video to go over, and he's got to edit this pod here. We got to get this one out first because I know y'all are itching for it. I almost did one last night, but I had to work on my recap and do some other things. I have a child now, so can't really do the late night pods as frequently. But yeah, so check that out. Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/winnoworgetbent. Check out our merch site, WNOGB.com. Get you an awesome mug. Let me get a sip of this. It's probably cold by now. Oh, yeah. Cold coffee. Still great, though. Coffee, way better than soda. I had to pop the top. We need to get that nice sound effect. It's really good for our audio heads out there. I know they'll like that. Some ASMR with the pop top. Who doesn't love a can popping? Check us out on Twitter, Win Now or Get Bent. On Twitter, on Instagram, at WNOGB. Like, subscribe, comment on all our platforms. Tell your friends. Have you guys been making accounts for your friends and families and enemies? Do whatever you got to do. Tell everybody about the pod. Help us grow. You've done a great job helping us grow. We are, wins help too for the Bobcats. That's been nice. Thank you to our sponsors, TGC, thegalindocollective.com, Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, Thaddeus Watkins at Edward Jones San Marcos, and Austin.patchmaster.com. Thank you to the wizard, Zachary Webb. Extra work from him yesterday. He had to lug all that camera equipment from the stadium to the river. I offered to help. He didn't need help. My guy is the hardest working man in San Marcos, and I challenge anyone to outwork him because I know I'm not going to. Thank you to the sickos. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. This is nothing without you. Finally, the Bobcats are bowl eligible. How's it feel? Are you feeling great? I know you're feeling great. Shout out to all you sickos I ran into yesterday. I ran into Robert. Finally, been wanting to run into that guy for 2 years. I ran into Rianne. Shout out to Rianne, one of our very few female listeners, women listeners out there. If you're out there, I just haven't seen you. She's probably just the most active on Twitter and everything. I walked back from the river talking with her and everything. That was great. Eddie Galvin, ran into Eddie Galvin again, my guy over there. Jim Rank, I ran into him while I was meeting with Robert twice. Again, gave him another koozie. You deserve it. He said he was going to give it out because I already gave him one, but you keep it, man. You keep both. You ran into me twice, you get 2 koozies. But shout out to everyone, all the sickos listening. This has been a fun season. It's still going. We got more to talk about. We got more things to do. Lots more Bobcats coming up, and I'm fired up for the rest of the season. I'm going to be here talking these cats, baby. Let's go. Eat them up. Eat them all the way up. Eat them all the way up, baby. Just eat them up. I love it. So happy. Let's go. Win now or get bent.